Actually, leave. Hello everybody. JR here. Welcome back to a continuation of our Life is Strange franchise tier list. In our last episode, where is it? There we go. We finished off True Colors. So we did which episode we did? We did 4. I believe it was chapter 4 and 5 of True Colors. So we did Flicker and Side B, with both of them being on A tier. Excuse me, A tier. Pretty much side by side. With really the only thing that hindered side B as a finale really is just the fact that it was extremely linear. So there wasn't so you didn't really do much exploring around really. So that was kind of that was a bummer. Like, yeah, there was some places that were kind of big, but there wasn't really anything to do. All you really had to do was just pretty much walk straight. So maybe if there was like hidden little tidbits or something, then maybe it would have been a little better. But the finale itself was fine. It since for us we did the since I usually do the romance Steph option and then do the Steph what was it, leaving Haven, because yet again the final choices of leaving Haven or staying, not really the biggest, because you could literally do both. Like, you could still live there but go on tour and trying to do the band thing at the same time. Like, you could do both. Like, I don't see what the not really much of a choice there. But either way, going to try the band thing with Steph was a fun way to end things. Yet again, the whole Jed being a bad guy, not the bad guy, because Typhon, the mining company Typhon, is technically the main bad guy. But since it's pretty much like fighting a faceless corporation, Jed being the overall like main face of being a villain is kind of was okay, especially since he is one of the more morally gray uh, villains, as far as like why he's motivated to do the things he does. Like, he's not a mustache twirling villain that's just pretty much evil for the sake of being evil. Pretty much like Mr. Jefferson in the original Life is Strange, or what was it? Damon in Before the Storm. Like Jefferson's more memorable for the shocking twist. Damon is more the most stereotypical like villain guy. He's just like big bad evil drug dealer guy. So like way more of a hardcore drug dealing guy than Frank ever was. So so um but yeah. So Jed was okay. Um but yet again, he's so far the best villain that has been portrayed in these games for the most part. So, as far as taking into account like his motivation and everything, and the follow up from the villain reveal and everything, and how that's handled and stuff like that. So that's more uh makes him a better villain. But in any case, so we're gonna be continuing with our with the Wavelengths DLC for True Colors, and then we're gonna run through that real quick, and then we'll see where the Wavelengths DLC lands. Cause so far it's kind of a like a 50-50. Because as far as well DLC well with the farewell episode of Before the Storm actually being like labeled a DLC thing, and then Captain Spirit being labeled more so as a demo initially. It's kind of a 50-50 split. So we'll see if Wavelength either joins one of these on their tier, or maybe it'll be at the maybe it'll be in between. We'll see. But in any case, let's jump over, because this time we actually do have a trailer for Wavelengths, because they did do some trailers for this. So we'll see how this goes, and at the same time, while this trailer plays, I could also eat, because I got food for this. So I'll be eating primarily for these. I mean, for this video. So let's put that there, and let's play this.
Steph, Gingrich? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's right.
Your friend did tell me you were overqualified for this job.
I think I'll love it.
I keep my hands on myself.
What kinds of radio have you done before?
God, let's see. What haven't I done?
So you know your way around an audio booth.
Am I coming out of left field? Ooh,
Yeah, totally.
kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now.
Part of your responsibilities would be managing the record store. I'm sure that won't be a problem.
Oh, right. Yeah, no problem at all. Sorry, computer DJ. It's my turn now. What's up, Kind Haven listeners? Steph here. Today is the last day of June, and that means we've got one more day to celebrate Pride. Citizens of Haven, do not touch those dials. I have a jam-packed show for you, going all night long. Nailed it. Happy New Year. You're on with Steph. been meaning to fill out my dating app profile. This is your life. Come on, let's keep playing.
Damn right.
So your friend said you quit your band to be here. Can I ask why?
I'm just trying to, do something cool. Something I can really get into.
Okay. So, we'll come back to that. Okay. So, we got. So, as the trailer showed a little bit, because they didn't spoil the big, some of the bigger surprises that Wavelengths actually had in it. They put they have, along with you playing as Steph for this DLC, obviously. Also, the fun soundtrack of music that Steph could DJ and set a tiny little playlist up while you're exploring around, which is only like 2 songs that you could set up like as like a mini playlist, but I wish it was more. But in any case, music is always gonna be on as you're like walking around and doing stuff anyway. So in any case, this is also a prequel to True Colors. So this takes place about a year before Alex comes to Haven. So pretty much if you've seen the collectible with that you could find where you hear a memory of Steph and Izzy, and Steph staying and Izzy not wanting to stay, and pretty much them breaking up and saying goodbye, pretty much. And the little flashbacks where you were helping Steph deal with her sadness in chapter 2 of True Colors, and the little pieces of memories that you could put together with Gabe beating her at foosball to make her stay because she wanted to eventually leave. So this DLC kind of takes place in between her losing the foosball game and being forced to stay, and then Alex coming into town. So we got so in the beginning, this episode, this little DLC is also split in 4 parts. So we begin in the springtime. Then we go into summer. Then we go into fall, and then we end the DLC with wintertime. So in the beginning, we begin with Steph on her first official day to start her DJ job. That we come to find out that Gabe was the one that got her the job, that pretty much got her booked the interview for her, and then recommended her enough that during the interview she got hired. So pretty much her first day on the job is pretty much the spring part. So it's kind of like one day of work. So even though it's separated into the 4 seasons to kind of give the environment some differences and stuff going on, it's primarily just one day of work. It's not, so technically you're only playing through like 4 days of Steph's overall job and routine at the record store. Because there's no other places you can explore in the besides just being in the record store. But yeah, so it goes to show how short, overall short, this whole thing is. And you did also see in the trailer, they did show a cameo of Mikey. So at one part of this DLC, Mikey is in it for a little bit, and like you saw in the trailer, he's in it through a computer screen. So he's not physically there. Like they're just kind of like they're pretty much like video chatting each other. So, but either way, it's nice that that they brought him back for this. Also, if you could probably tell from the little bit of dialogue of Mikey that you hear in the trailer, in the initial, because that was the first trailer that they put out for it. He is voiced by the same guy that did that played Mikey in Before the Storm. So that wasn't changed. They kept him voicing just like Katie Benz with Steph. That she voiced Steph in Before the Storm, and then she voiced Steph here and throughout the main story of True Colors and everything. So all great. But there's also some other surprises, but we'll get to that when we get to the season where those cameos become more obvious. So in any case, we got our first day on the job. You have to go through the routine, which the main routine of all 4 days is pretty much you have like 3. I believe the main objectives all 4 days are always like 3 ad reads that you have to do over the radio, and I believe you have to answer a couple of phone calls or whatnot, and that's primarily the main things that you have to do in all 4 days. There will be other main objectives that do pop up besides that, but those depending on on which day you're playing through. But for here, the first day is just primarily just the ad reads and all that stuff. So and the phone calls. So, which the ad reads are pretty. The ad reads are usually always something funny because you're reading an ad for one of the local businesses and stuff like that. So, Steph can make some like quirky jokes in relation to what business she's doing the ad read for. So that's pretty fun. Some of the phone calls are also really can be really fun. Um, but I'll talk about some of those when we get to them, because there's I think there's like two phone calls that stick out to me primarily, but not in this not on this day, because this is just the introduction thing. Also, I'll mention it now, but throughout the 4 days, you also get the Steph meeting, not meeting, but finding her cat, because Steph has a cat in the cat in the record store that she named Valkyrie. In this DLC, pretty much you meet, well, not meet, but you go through certain steps in trying to, in one, finding Valkyrie. Well, the cat who will become named Valkyrie. But you find the cat, and then trying to get the cat to like you. Funny part is, you don't see the cat throughout the main DLC portion. Like the cat, you don't see the cat. Also a thing to note, you do not, nobody shows up at the record store at all. So Steph is the only character you physically see in the record store at any given time. Pretty much throughout this main little story here. So yeah, so you pretty much do your introduction to your work, right? And then you do your first day, you do your ad reads, you do your phone calls. I don't believe, no, you don't start setting stuff up yet, but yeah, so, and then you get a nice little phone call from Gabe, him checking in on you on your first day and whatnot, and you have some fun, like, quirky little dialogue with Steph talking about, like, the fact that he lied on about Steph's qualifications and stuff. So so she kind of got a job that she's not entirely prepared for, but we're going to be able to run through it anyway and get through it, and it'll turn out that she's actually good at the job anyway. So yeah. So we got the first day down, and then now, because the first day was spring, and then now, for the second day is in the summertime, and specifically, during Pride Month. So obviously, since Steph is a lesbian, we have during the summer, what time of year would you most likely set like a summer day to play through? So obviously Pride Month would definitely be that. Also, a little thing you could also set up at the beginning of the game, the episode, the little DLC here, is like you saw in the trailer, she could set up like a dating app profile, and during the course of the days that you're playing, she will actually get like hookup requests and stuff from different women and stuff in the thing, and you could pretty much interact with all of those like requests, and they're all pretty much text based, so it's all about texting back and forth. And some of them are funny, some of them can get kind of kinky in a way, because there's this one chick that you could answer the request of, and kudos to her for being very upfront about it though. But she could request to Steph that she wanted to that one, she's bi and she has a boyfriend, so she wants Steph to be their third person because they wanted to have like a three-way. So so obviously Steph doesn't go that far, so regardless she's gonna deny that interaction, but it's pretty crazy. There's also a girl that you could answer the request of, that turns out that she was kind of pranked by her friends and they made a profile for her on the thing. And it turns out, and you could answer the request, which she explains this to you on the thing, and she's really like nice about it. She was like, hey, no hard feelings, my friends did this and stuff. Like, if I was like that, you'd definitely be one of the like definitely someone I would try to date and stuff like that. So it's a pretty amicable conversation between Steph and this girl. But the main point is, with some of these requests, some of them actually carry over from day to day. If you've built like a friendship or rapport, or actually tried dating some of these girls, like they'll actually kind of have like a mini little story throughout the rest of the days throughout the DLC, which is pretty cool. Some of the ones that you can date, actually, you would actually go on dates, and the dates would happen in between the episodes. So not episodes, in between the days. So every time there's the season changes and there's a time jump, you would go on like some of those dates with the girls. And when you're exploring around when you're walking around and exploring around the record store, you will actually see like little mementos and stuff of dates and hangouts that you've had with these people. So that's a quirky little fun little thing that they put in there. Also, particularly with the one that the girl that got her friends made the profile for her. It turns out as you're talking to her and you become friends with her, and then you talk back and forth, eventually she'll pretty much come out to you as that she wants to be a man. So eventually she's gonna transition to be a man, and you could pretty much like like support her through it and stuff, and like she comes up with like a man name and stuff, and then you could start referring to her as the man name for when she, you know, officially like 100% makes the transition thing. So that's pretty fun. Um, so yeah, that's a thing that you could do in the background throughout these four little days that you play. But in any case, so we're in summer, we're in Pride Month. One of the interesting phone calls that you can do, that you get, because you get several phone calls throughout these days as you're playing. One of them, since it's Pride Month, is about a dad that's dealing with that's trying to get some advice on how to deal with his son coming out to him as gay. So you could pretty much like kind of like be like a counselor to him about it, which is pretty cool. The funny thing about it too, when Steph is doing these phone calls, it's mostly people like asking her about her opinion on stuff. So they kind of ask her questions and see what like what her answer would be. And Steph plays a little game where her responses are dependent on the D20 dice that she throws. So she'll pretty much like roll the dice, and obviously if it rolls high, then she kind of like says some good news or stuff like that. But either way, even if it's bad news, she tries to include a silver lining in it anyway. So she tries to make it overall positive regardless. So in any case, so during the summer, you also find on your on the front desk, on the front counter, that Steph has a package from Mikey. And she could choose to and you can open it, and when you open it, it's a box that was full of Steph's old D&D stuff, like the D&D stuff that her and Mikey played in Before the Storm. So it's filled with stuff like that. You can at this point you could also reconnect with Mikey and like kind of start your, well, you start it off screen, the video chatting a D&D campaign between the two of you. So that's a fun little thing. Also, you also come to discover that Steph has been avoiding Mikey for like a while. So this time, like reconnecting with him and stuff like that. You do come to find out during the fall section why exactly she kind of cut him off for a while. So in any case, you do your normal stuff, and then the final thing that you have to do for this day is you have to take down and put away the Pride Month decorations, because it's the very last day of Pride Month. So now you're putting everything away. There's also um little inner monologue memories, like kind of like how like Steph can examine some of these objects and like an inner monologue memory that's attached to that object will you'll hear it like in her head and stuff. Some of them are pretty much like um, Steph coming to terms with her being like a lesbian and stuff like that and whatnot. So it's a cute little thing, and also you also in the memory meet a I think it's her cousin. I think it's her male cousin that also is that also is gay. So he's kind of helping Steph like uh get accustomed and comfortable with her sexuality and stuff like that. So that's a cute little thing going on. Um Also, one of the big surprise cameos though is it's only a voice cameo is on on the front counter you have a bowl that's filled with hold on a minute. I'll be right back. Alrighty. So there's these little bowl of pins on Pride Month handmade Pride Month pins on the front counter. And when Steph can examine them and stuff, she mentions that some of the pins in the bowl, in that bowl, were actually made. Some of them were made by her and Chloe. So her and Chloe made little pride pins, which is pretty cute that they did that. But and then when Steph is putting the pins away, you will actually get a a little vocal cameo of Steph and Chloe actually like making the pins. Um and also Chloe in this cameo is voiced by Rihanna DeVries. So the same the same woman that voiced Chloe in Before the Storm comes back to voice Chloe in these little cameo here in Wavelengths. So that's a fun surprise. Also, so when you do that, you're pretty much so once you put away all the stuff, that's the end of that day. Also, a funny little thing that you could also do throughout all the day, pretty much all the days that you're playing is you could have a flashback to foosball games that you have with Gabe. So kind of and just like in the main story of True Colors, where Alex is playing foosball with Steph, and they're talking while you're playing the game, and you can respond to certain questions and stuff that get asked while you're playing the foosball game at the same time. So while you're doing all that multitasking, you could do the same thing here, except obviously it's Steph playing with Gabe, and they're like talking to each other and things like that. So fun little ways that they put that they had Gabe involved, and Gabe is still voiced by the same. All the True Colors characters that have cameos and stuff in this DLC are all voiced by the same people from the main game. So nothing's different on that part. So now that we finished the summer part, now we get to my favorite part of this DLC, which is the fall section. And this fall section primarily is dealing with the aftermath of which ending you chose at the end of the original Life is Strange. So, cause a little tidbit is at the beginning when you play this DLC at the very beginning, just like Life is Strange 2, just like at the beginning of Life is Strange 2, it asks you, did you play the original game, and which ending did you choose? So Wavelength does the same thing here, and this section, this fall section, is different depending on if you chose to save Arcadia Bay or destroy Arcadia Bay. So depending on, or AKA destroy the town or save Chloe. So so depending on which one you did, hey. So depending on which one you did, Steph's um Steph's little flashbacks and stuff that she has during the course of this section is different depending on the ending of the original game you chose. So, for instance, if you chose to sacrifice Chloe and save Arcadia Bay, primarily Steph's flashbacks is mostly around obviously discovering that Chloe was shot by Nathan. Rachel's body getting discovered. Having a school assembly about Chloe's death and whatnot. Her also saying that she didn't want to go to the funeral, Chloe's funeral or anything, because it was too much. And you also have like little flashback conversations with Mikey, because during these flashbacks, Mikey is trying to console Steph and whatnot through this. So that's primarily the difference there, which is funny because the fact that Steph and Mikey, that they mentioned that they couldn't, go to the funeral or anything because of how like heartbroken and stuff they are. It's a funny little way of explaining why they were never in the funeral ending, like why they weren't there, even though in the real world it's because the game was before the storm wasn't even made then, so these characters didn't exist. so it's kind of funny that they write in an explanation to try to keep continuity and stuff with everything. So that's pretty cool. Also if you chose the save Chloe ending, primarily what Steph is like sad and depressed about is primarily that Steph's mother was killed during the storm. So Steph was not home when the storm was happening that week that the original Life is Strange happens. Steph and Mikey are not there. Like they're on I believe Mikey is back at his house. Because they actually like had a house, got a home and stuff. Things worked out with Mikey's dad and everything, so they were able to get, a home and stuff and things. So Steph was at his house and she wasn't at home. So her mother was the only one that was home, because I believe her dad was also not there. So her mom was home alone when the storm hit, and she got killed during the storm. And it's even more traumatizing for Steph because her mom ends up calling Steph, and she ends up being on the phone with her mother while the storm is hitting and things are going crazy. and right after her mom tells Steph that, you know, I love you and stuff no matter what happens, that's when the line cuts off. So you could presumably assume that Steph was pretty much on the phone with her mother up until the point where she gets killed. So that's justifiably traumatizing for her. So I don't. So that is that is definitely a heavy thing. And also with Mikey, Mikey's brother Drew also ended up getting killed in the storm. Except with Mikey, Mikey finds out later when they're when everyone is, you know, rummaging through the town trying to figure out the death toll and stuff after that and finding bodies and things. That's how Mikey finds out that Drew got killed. So that's primarily like the differences of the flashbacks and stuff during this. And then you also got the actual tabletop game that you try to play with Mikey after you close the record shop, after you do your regular activities. You play a tabletop game with try to play a tabletop game with Mikey. Also, when you're exploring the record store trying to do your activities, that's when like these flashbacks and stuff start happening. And when you're doing that, depending on the ending you chose, some of the things that you see during the course of your job activities that you're doing will be different depending on the ending. Like for instance, you have to look through like some of the records and stuff and try to find certain things, right, to put to the side. That record will look different. The record that triggers a memory will look different depending on the ending. Like if you went with the Chloe is alive ending, the cover of the record is a tornado. So little like sub differences and stuff going on there. So with the D&D game that you're playing with Mikey, you could try to do the D&D game. You get little flashbacks and stuff to different things. Some of these are different, and some of these are the same no matter what ending you chose. The primary difference is if Chloe's alive, Mikey will actually ask Steph if she's heard from Chloe, and she'll pretty much say no and stuff. Like she says that she heard Chloe like left town and stuff after everything that happened and things like that. So there's that. There's also a thing that if Chloe's dead, Steph will talk to Mikey about how she kind of hates herself for being jealous of the relationship that Chloe and Rachel had, and that she should have been, instead of being jealous, she should have been more grateful for having both of them in her life and stuff, and which is you know, also the there's one little cameo that you get, which is a flashback, little vocal audio flashback of Steph, Mikey, and Chloe playing a tabletop game. I mean, playing D&D, like how Chloe did in Before the Storm. If you choose to play the game with Steph and Mikey, so you get a little thing of them doing that here. But the difference is, Rachel is also there, and she's pretty much watching all three of them like play the game. Sadly, she's not participating. But it's kind of fun. At least she's there with the three of them, hanging out with all of them. And yet again, Chloe is voiced by Rihanna DeVries again from Before the Storm. And more importantly, even though Rachel's voice line is literally like 2 lines, I think she only says like 2 words or something in this entire little flashback here. But they did get Kylie Brown to come back and voice Rachel for this little flashback. Even though Kylie literally only said like 2 lines, but hey, it was nice to hear her again, especially since True Colors since this DLC came out in 2001. I mean 2021. Since True Colors came out in 2021, and Before the Storm came out in 2017, the first episode of Before the Storm came out in 2017. It's nice that after so long between these, that they were at least able to get both Rihanna and Kylie to come back and voice Chloe and Rachel, even in these very small little cameos just for this. I appreciate the effort that Deck 9 and stuff went through to be like, okay, we gotta get them to do this. Even though it's a very small thing, it still means a lot that they did that. But yeah, you could also you then have your final little kind of confrontation with Mikey, cause this is where Steph admits to Mikey, like, I don't know why you keep trying to come in contact with me, because I ghosted you. Pretty much the reason why she ghosted Mikey is because that since the memory, especially with her mother and stuff, and even with the Rachel and Chloe stuff, Mikey is a constant reminder of Arcadia Bay and all of, no matter what ending you choose, whatever like bad things that happened. So that's why she kind of cut off Mikey after a while, is because like every time she like interacts with him, it's like those memories and stuff just keep coming, and she's trying like avoid them. So hence why cutting off Mikey. But in this instance, Mikey and Steph talk to each other, and they could kind of confide in each other and try to get over, help each other get over like their grief and stuff, and finally confront their grief and try to help each other through it. So, and that's pretty much the end of this section. Because after that heavy conversation, that's when they like go back to trying to cheer each other up by cracking some jokes and continuing to play the D&D game. So, and that ends like the fall section, which is pretty which is the most meaningful part of this DLC, is that section. So yeah, so then we get to the final little part of the DLC, and that's the winter section, which is specifically around on New Year's, cause Steph has like a New Year's bottle and stuff, and she's waiting for the clock to strike midnight so she could pop open the champagne and drink some. So she does her normal like activities, right? And then one of the phone calls that you can answer during this part is actually from Ducky, and Ducky is like has a fun little conversation with her and things like that. So it's a fun little cameo that they put Ducky in here, which also kind of goes to show how I guess how much of a fan favorite that Ducky turned out to be, that they just put him in there as a cameo. Because to be honest, the only cameos in this Wavelengths DLC is just Ducky and Gabe from True Colors, pretty much. Those are the only real two that get any voice lines. But yeah. But so after you do all that, what was it? Gabe, Ethan, and Charlotte, and I think Ducky, Eleanor, well, pretty much like all the group of friends and stuff, have a scavenger hunt for Steph to do for New Year's, and you pretty much have to do the scavenger hunt to finish off the DLC. And then when you finish the scavenger hunt, it's it turns out to be like a custom plaque that they made for Steph with her name on it and things like that. So it's a nice little cute little gesture that everyone put together to make something like special for Steph and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. So they finish so you finish the scavenger hunt. You pop open the champagne. I think you drink some. I think Steph drinks a little bit, but in any case, it finishes up, and then you go into your final little cutscene to close out the DLC. And it's at this point you see Ryan in the background, and then you see Valkyrie, the cat, is finally like actually being shown. And then Steph is in the booth, um, having like a commercial break or whatnot while waiting for the commercial to finish and stuff like that. And she's also like waving around the little LARP sword. She's waving that around. And then on her computer screen to the side, you could see her searching for new jobs. Because remember, she wants to leave Haven, try leaving Haven again. So you see her like toying around with that idea now on her computer screen with the searches that she's doing. And then she comes back from commercial, says a little thing, and then she segues into another song, right? So she introduces the next song. So she cuts into that song. While the song's playing, she goes to get two records and is looking at which record to play next, right? Waiting for the next song to play. And it's at that point that right behind her, you see Alex walk up to the window. So see, she kind of just walks into the window like that. She just comes in off screen, and then there she is. So yeah, and then Steph turns around, and then she sees Alex, and then she takes the two records and puts them against the window for Alex to choose. And then the DLC finishes. Fades out, goes to credits right after that. So pretty much placing the end of the DLC to right when Steph and Alex meet each other for the first time. So that's a nice little bookend to the DLC to place it right there by the end. So that's pretty fun. So for wavelengths, we're gonna put it right there, right at the bottom of A tier. So far from the short, like add-on episodes, Wavelength is right between Farewell and Captain Spirit. So that fall section for Wavelengths is definitely what pushes it into the A category, because that's where the emotional like a lot of the heavy emotional parts of the episode of the DLC is in that fall section, no matter which ending you choose. So, because other than that, the DLC is primarily very fun and like upbeat and jovial for the most part. So the fall section is pretty much the heavy, where all the heavy emotion is centered at. Also, mainly because the Arcadia Bay and the events of the original Life is Strange took place in October. So, and the fall section that you're playing through, the anniversary of the events of Arcadia Bay happen happen at that point. So hence why Steph is more reserved and depressed and trying to avoid people during that fall section, is because we're getting closer to the anniversary and stuff. So usually, she says usually around this time of year she gets a little sad, and her way of not dealing with it is avoiding it. So hence the Mikey and Steph conversation that they have later, where they kind of stop avoiding things and trying to confront it, help each other confront them. So yeah, that's primarily why that's there. To be fair, the Captain Spirit stuff also has some heavy stuff, but the main difference there is, since Captain Spirit kind of has that hidden timer going on, it all can end very quickly without you getting too far into a lot of the heavy themes going on. So because of that hidden timer, I kind of put it kind of gets pushed down to the B level. If there was a lot more time for me to do everything I want and kind of see everything I want, then this most likely would have been in a A tier, because I really like Chris and stuff as a character. But yeah. So with that, we only have two big things here left. And that's Double Exposure and the comics. We'll do... We'll do we'll do the comics last. We'll do Double Exposure. We'll try to do the first episode, the first chapter of Double Exposure now. So where is it? Oh, nope. Oh, there you are. All right. So here is the trailer for the first trailer for Double Exposure. So let's change that, and let's put this on, and let's remind myself of what, well, let's see what Double Exposure has in store.
I swore I'd never use my power again. But 2 nights ago, I found my friend's body in the woods. trusts me. But my friend Safi is dead. So why can I still hear her voice? Focusing my power, I somehow shifted into a parallel timeline. Here, Safi is still alive, but danger stalks our every step. And only I can investigate both realities.
Hang on. Parallel world?
It's the same as this one, except you're dead. I can still save Safi. If I can solve and prevent the same murder across 2 timelines.
Okay. So, so as you can see, the big hook for Double Exposure was the return of our good old friend Max Caulfield over here. So, with Double Exposure being a direct continuation of the original Life is Strange game, which is also appropriate considering at this point, by the time the game came out and stuff, we were approaching, by January, it would have been 10 years since the original Life is Strange came out. So I guess to celebrate almost 10 years of the franchise, let's bring back Max as the playable character for a new game. And will that will oh, will that be will this be a success? Well, for me, will it be a success? But we got to go chapter by chapter and see where this ranks in the against everything else here. So let's get some corporate corporate bullshit out the way before we start diving into the main story proper. There was an ultimate edition of the game, like a digital ultimate edition of the game of Double Exposure that you could get, that came with a bunch of extra costumes, that Max can wear, which which isn't necessarily bad, like too bad, because True Colors had couple of extra costumes as DLC, and Before the Storm also had a couple of extra costumes as DLC. And even Life is Strange 2 had not costumes at DLC, but they had the little book bag keychains and book bag pouches and that you could get to customize Sean's book bag. So cosmetic DLC is not that bad, but Double Exposure really went crazy with it. Some of the costumes are actually cool. I wouldn't recommend wearing some of them because some of them are pretty goofy, and these costumes are shown in game and in cutscenes and stuff. So certain cutscenes that's supposed to be like dramatic, sad, or whatnot can really get undercut a lot because you're kind of wearing a goofy costume, because you're having Max wear like a goofy costume. Like you have a Halloween costume that you could wear that kind of makes Max look like a zombie. There's a because it's Square Enix, there's a Final Fantasy costume that you could wear that has like a Cactuar hat and like chocobo stuff and whatnot. So there's a little bit of some goofiness that can definitely potentially ruin a lot of the immersion of the game. So pretty much, if you want to try playing the game with those goofier costumes, I would suggest playing through the game once, like normally, or with some normal looking costumes first, so that way you don't potentially like ruin and undercut certain scenes and stuff because of the clothes that you wear. Also, they do have some DLC costumes for Life is Strange 2, True Colors, and for the original Life is Strange, with one costume in particular is pretty much Max cosplaying as Chloe. Like, she's wearing like this Chloe shirt and her hair is dyed blue and stuff, so it's literally like Max is just pretending that she's Chloe, which is pretty funny. But the big contention of DLC was that there was a cat DLC where they have like cat content that's added into the game, and it's added during the course of particularly, I believe it's chapter 2 to 5 of the game, because excuse me, because primarily the cat content is primarily from chapter 2 to 5. I believe chapter 1 really doesn't. I don't think it really has anything to do with it. But I know because I know that if you don't have the cat content, the game kind of advertises it to you. Like right when you get to like the part of the game where you find the cat and stuff, the game will smash cut the screen with a big advertisement for the cat content. Which makes what makes it even worse is when Double Exposure came out, it was $50. I believe the regular game is $50 on its own, and the Ultimate Edition that comes with the cat content and all the DLC costumes all together. And this is day one, mind you. Like, this isn't content that got added later in the game. Like, all this stuff came out on day one, when the full game officially came out. Was $80, I believe, all of that. So the cat content and those DLC costumes for $80. And to make things even more scummy, was you got to play the first 2 chapters of Double Exposure, I believe 2 weeks. I believe it was like 2 weeks early, before the full game came out. And mind you, just like True Colors, the whole game is finished. So they were pretty much locking the last 3 chapters off to you and forcing you to wait like 2 weeks to play the rest of the game, even though the game is fully done. So, not the best. To say that the fan base was really pissed at primarily at Square Enix for doing this, because most of this sounds like a Square Enix decision, not necessarily a Deck 9 decision. But yeah. The funny little thing with the cat content is the cats and the names that you could give the cats are actually based on original Max Hannah Tell, on her cats, on her real life cats that she has. And yes, Hannah Tell, they did get Hannah Tell to come back and play Max for Double Exposure. So, whatever is there to come for this game, as we recap through all these chapters, is they did get Hannah to come back to Max, to play Max. So that is a huge plus for this. But in any case, so for the first episode, for the first chapter, which I believe is called Still Life, we open up in this inside this abandoned building. So we're kind of in this abandoned building. The credits are starting to play, By credits, I mean like the Square Enix logo and the Deck 9 logo. And no, just the Square Enix and the Deck 9 logo. Because the title card for the game doesn't pop in until later. But you hear some rattling at this door, this locked door. So somebody's trying to get into the building. They find a way in. They use some bolt cutters to cut the chains, the lock, or whatever on the door. And then the door opens. You don't see the person yet. So they come walking into the door. All you see is their boots that they're wearing, and the bolt cutters that they put down on the floor. And then it's at this point when they raise their head up from off screen. That's when you find out that the person that just came in is Max. So not gonna lie, when I first played the game, and even when I saw the trailer for the first time, it was very teary-eyed seeing Max in a game again after so long. And yet again, hearing Hannah's voice coming from her is perfect on that point. So we also see that that Max's friend Safi comes into the building behind her, and they pretty much talk, kind of. You get a sense of the dynamic between the two of them, because if you remember from the trailer, Safi is the one that eventually is going to get killed at some point. So you have to quickly establish the dynamic between the two and get an idea of how close they are, because they're supposed to be close, because if Max is going through the trouble of trying to solve, like, who murdered her and all that stuff, you need to get a really good foundation on their relationship to believe that Max is gonna go through all this stuff for Safi. So in any case, we get inside the building, and now we have to get obviously deeper into this abandoned building, so we have to move this bookcase around, out of the way of the doorway. And then when we get in, that's we fully find out that the building is an abandoned bowling alley. So now the room that we just cleared to get for the bookcase to get past is the main bowling alley area. So you have all the lanes and everything set up there. A funny little tidbit that you could find out here is if you, it's a very meta reference though, is if you press the button, whatever button you're playing, you played the original Life is Strange on. If you press the button that would have been the button to activate Max's rewind powers, if you press that, Max will actually comment that ever since the events of Arcadia Bay, no matter what ending you choose, she has refused to try to use her powers. So it's a funny little inner monologue that she has if you try to if you press the button that would have been the rewind. So in any case, you come to find out that the reason why Max is here is because she's a pretty famous photographer at this point. So she did pursue her photography career and actually made a career out of it. And she's trying to get photos for her next project that she's working on. So she's trying to get a good photo, and Safi's helping her explore the place to try to find something really interesting for her to take pictures of. Also in the game, it's at this point in the game where you find that one of the little a little collectible in this game is actually Max taking pictures, and this time Max is not using a Polaroid camera. She's using a digital camera. So when she's taking pictures, you could kind of like mess with the focus and stuff. If you're trying to take a picture of somebody, you could actually have them do different poses and stuff to take pictures with. You can even do, as the name of the game suggests, you could do a double exposure shot of the photo and stuff. So you could do a lot more little quirky, funny things with photos that you take with the camera. So there's that. Is it here that you find your first one, or is it later? I think it might be a little later, because this little section at the bowling alley is kind of like your tutorial to the like basic controls. So in any case, you explore a little bit, take some little collectible photos and stuff if you want to. You find this big like solar system like thing that they have hanging off the top of the bowling alley. So Max is like, okay, that's the thing that I want to take a good picture of. But she needs to get to a good angle, so you need to go to this little observatory area that's overlooking all the bowling alley lanes. So you need to get up there, so you need to do a little climbing up the thing and stuff to get up to that room. So you finally get to the room. Safi's like, okay, I'm gonna try to find something to make it easier for you to get down. So she goes to find that. You make your way to the little observatory area. You find a good angle, and then you take your picture. And then Safi finds a ladder, so she's able to put the ladder up to you, so that way you could just shortcut your way down and not have to go all the way back around again or whatnot. So you do that, you get down, Safi's like, okay, let me see the picture and stuff. And the picture's all nice. The little Planeteer thing starts making some noise, and Safi notices and then she pulls Max away because the thing like falls down and would have crushed them if Safi didn't pull Max away, that they didn't go away. So they do that, have that little near-death experience right at the beginning of the game, and then they're like, okay, after that, let's go get a drink. So then they go to this, so, hold on, before that, so they agree to go to, get a drink at a bar called the Snapping Turtle, right? So when it cuts to black, to transition from the bowling alley to the turtle, you get the first, because they do it a lot in this very first episode. In this very first chapter, they do this a lot. You experience a vocal flashback to the original game. And specifically, this flashback, I believe it's Max and Chloe talking at the end of the game. And I believe it's the lead up to making your final choice at the end of the game. And yes, it is Max and Chloe, and they're both talking. So, and they're reciting word for word lines from the original game. And these lines are re-recorded. So they have Hannah. Hannah is reciting Max's lines again. And as for Chloe, which was also a big thing that the fan base was pretty split on, was they did not get Ashley Birch to come back to do the voice of Chloe for this, which is a bummer, because anytime we had Hannah Tell as Max, Ashley Birch was always Chloe in that scenario. Because even in the Farewell DLC for Before the Storm, you had Hannah and Ashley for Max and Chloe in that little DLC. But for this big game, where Hannah's in it for the whole game, in these flashbacks with Chloe, you do not get Ashley Birch for Chloe. Instead, they brought in Rihanna DeVries again to do Chloe for these flashbacks, which isn't bad, but it is very weird hearing Max talking and not hearing Hannah talk and not hearing Ashley Birch in response, and hearing Rihanna instead. I will say though, Rihanna's voice work in this instance, she's really putting in the effort to try for Chloe to try to sound similar to how Ashley sounded in the first game. It's not a 100% accomplished. If you played the original game enough, you can very obviously hear that that's not Ashley. But there are little moments here and there where it's like, oh, that sounds awfully close. And you might wonder why did they record these lines? there's a reason why these lines are re-recorded, because Chloe will have, no matter which ending of the original game you chose, Chloe will have new dialogue, but that's not until the very end of the game. That's not until chapter 5. And that's why they re-recorded everything. Because if it wasn't for that, if there was no new Chloe dialogue in any way, then you should have just used voice clips from the original game. Like, it would make no sense to do that. So, for me, I believe it's because of the new lines. Plus, to make it sound consistent. Because it would be weird if you heard Ashley Birch up until the new voice line section and then it just randomly cuts to Rihanna. It'd be weird. So to keep consistency, they just had Rihanna just record everything. So in any case, so you get your first flashback in between the bar and the bowling alley scene. To where, when the scene opens at the bar, Max is, Safi's kind of shouting at, kind of like, trying to get Max's attention. She's like calling her name. Because it seems like Max is kind of like zoned out a little bit. So the implication is that she's kind of remembering the original game a little bit, like zoned out to it. So then so Max wakes up, well, kind of comes back to reality a little bit. And then Safi's like, you okay? And whatnot. And Max is like, oh yeah, I'm fine. And is it here? No, it's not here. That's later. Cause there's a similar bar scene where this happens, so I'm trying not to jump ahead in the game. So in any case, in this bar scene, so Safi and Max are kind of having a conversation. Safi's kind of like, Safi's like knows Max, but not like extremely well. Like, Max is very reserved on her history that she shares with people. So she's not, so she hasn't like completely told Safi like everything that happened, this, that, and the third. Like Arcadia Bay and stuff like that. Like, she hasn't necessarily gone into detail about that. So even though the events of Arcadia Bay is pretty much public record, so even if Chloe is alive or not, you even have you have either the town being destroyed making headlines, or Chloe's murder and finding Rachel and the whole Jefferson thing making headlines. So either way, Safi kind of knows the broad strokes of what happened in the original game, but Max is very hush-hush on the finer details, like the big details thing. So it's at this point during your conversation here with Safi at the bar where the game now asks you about your choices in the original game. So they instead of the game asking you when you start the game, Deck Nine tried to try to make that conversation more organic within the game, instead of it just being a checkbox that you're making before you even start the game. Which I can appreciate that they tried to work it in. So pretty much you choose. So here you're pretty much choosing what your relationship with Chloe was, and what ending you chose. So what sparks this conversation is because Safi is pretty much asking, like, like, why are you so, like you look kind of like bummed or whatnot and things like that, and she pretty much asks her, does her being sad or mopey have anything to do with, quote, the blue-haired girl whose picture you keep in your wallet? Which Max's appropriate response is like, you snooped in my wallet and stuff. Which Safi immediately is like, you're avoiding the question. The blue-haired girl, what's the deal with you two? And this is what sparks your choices on what your relationship with Chloe was and the ending that you choose. Which a relationship is obviously whether you pursue the romantic relationship with Chloe or not. So things will be different depending on, will be slightly different depending on what your relationship status with Chloe was. And obviously, more importantly, whether she's even alive or not. So this is also the part where the fan base was really divided. Was, if you were in a relationship with Chloe and you chose to save her, right? If she's alive by the end of the game, how the game states this to you is, you either have two choices. You're presented with two choices. Either the town was saved, like either you sacrificed Chloe, right? She died. Or you broke up. So if you were in a relationship with Chloe, somehow before the beginning of the game, y'all just ended up breaking up for whatever reason. Which the game tries to give a reason later, but we'll come to it when we get to it, because the reasoning is not great, like, at all. It really isn't. You so and to be more upfront, because I'm gonna get this out of the way now, so that way we can talk about the main story of the game. Is, if Chloe is alive and you broke up for whatever reason, right? Because obviously, if she's dead, it doesn't really even matter, right? If she's alive and you broke up, And plus, if she's alive, period. Because even if she's alive and you weren't romantically involved, you and Chloe still, like, stop being friends and whatnot for whatever reason. Which, yet again, the reasons are not good that they give. It really isn't. Especially within the context of the original game and how the original game set them up together regardless of whether they're in a relationship or not. So the fact that they're broken up, apart, or whatnot off screen really pissed off a lot of the fan base. Like a lot, like a substantial a substantial amount. Because yet again, you can go into the percentages at the end of the original game and look at the ending, which ending people chose. And it's a very strong, near 50-50 split between the two endings. Whether you're looking at the status of the original games, or whether you're looking the original game, or whether you're looking at the status of the remaster, it's still pretty much a 50-50 split. Like, there's a very small margin of error between the two of them. So this decision here was very divisive. Which doesn't help because they didn't handle it well either. Like, as I said, the reasons as to why things happened wasn't handled great. So even if the initial decision was divided, if they would have executed it, if their reasoning was better executed, it probably would have been more tolerable. Sadly, that's not the case. But, so you choose whatever with Safi. You never mention Chloe by name to Safi. Which is kind of funny that kind of Max refuses to tell people Chloe's name. Because the only time Max ever mentions Chloe by name is usually if she's alone or in her inner monologues. And actually later, because I believe she doesn't tell Safi ever, but she does tell one person Chloe's name, because they do mention Chloe's name at the end of the game. Depending on the ending you chose from the original game. So yeah, so they pretty much they get your drinks. This new main side character, Amanda, walks over, cause she's the main person that works at this bar. Cause she doesn't own the bar, but she's the main person that works at the bar. I believe she's the only. Is she the only person that works at the bar? I think maybe there's like an NPC that may be around that works, but she's primarily the main person that we deal with in the bar anyway, so she might as well be the only person that works here. So so Amanda's there. She talks to Safi and Max. It's very obvious that Amanda really likes Max. So now we know that Amanda's a lesbian and that she really likes Max, but she hasn't actively made a big move on Max. So we already set up Amanda as one of the love interests of the game. And she's a love interest whether Chloe is alive or not. Which is also kind of annoying because it kind of feels like the only reason they broke up, one of the reasons, it really feels like one of the reasons they broke up Max and Chloe is to give Max another female relationship, is to give Amanda a purpose here. But yeah, don't get me wrong, Amanda's a fun character, as you experience throughout the game. She's pretty fun, but saddling her as the Chloe replacement did not do her any favors, which is not great because, as I said, she on her own, she's a fun character. She's performed very well and whatnot, but it's like you pretty much put her in Chloe's shadow, and it's like, yeah, she's not gonna be able to get out of that. But yeah, so Safi can kind of play matchmaker and try to push Max to kind of pursue Amanda, which whatever you choose, that's pretty much how that goes. So you can do it or not. I did one playthrough for fun, and the Amanda romance is actually pretty nice and sweet, but it's like, nah, Chloe all the way. So we ain't gonna play that. But in any case, if Chloe is dead, then the Amanda situation is actually a lot better because you could frame that relationship as Max trying to find love again type of deal. So that's so Amanda really is definitely better if Chloe is absolutely not around. So that's nice. That's a nice way for that to work, I guess. But yeah, so either way, you could become friends with Amanda anyway, so you don't have to be in a relationship. Try to be in a relationship with her. You could still be friends. But yeah, so you could work that out. And then after that little thing, you kind of get you kind of get Amanda's number. Either way, you get her number, and she even confronts you when she's gonna give you her number, to make it clear of are we just gonna be friends or are we gonna pursue a relationship thing. So she blatantly puts it out there and tries to make a distinction one way or the other, that you can choose. So there's that. We'll get to the male romance option later, which isn't great. Probably the worst real male romance option in any of these games. But yeah, so we do that. We get back to Safi, to pretty much tell her what happened, how everything goes. and then Moses, Safi's best friend Moses comes in, who's also friends with Max also. So all three of them are friends, but Moses and Safi know each other the longest. So they're kind of like the bestest of friends, those two. And to be, and they all work, Max, Safi, and Moses work as teachers for the most part at a university that's close by called Caledon University. And Safi's mother is the principal of the university. So, and Safi's mom is also the one that kind of gave Max kind of her big break in photography and stuff. Like, she noticed some of the photos that she made earlier in her career, and that's how Max got the job at Caledon. And some of Max's work and stuff is actually on display in the university and stuff. So she's kind of getting a little more famous through this. Because they call Max kind of a artist in residence, which she's pretty much like a teacher, but you never see any classrooms. So you never see Max actually teaching anyone, like actually being in class and actually having a class or anything. But you do encounter some of her students though. But they're never in class, so it's kind of weird. It's one of the things that stick out that kind of is a knock against this game is you're playing as someone who's like a teacher. You're associated with a bunch of teachers, but you're never in a situation where you're in class and you're teaching anyone. Like, not even once. So it's kind of weird. But in any case, so you talk to Moses. Safi says, "Excuse me for a minute. She needs to go get something, right? Because she's planning a celebration to celebrate something, but she's being secretive on what they're celebrating. So she's going to get something. You have your little introduction conversation between Max and Moses to set up their dynamic, right? Safi comes back. She has a bottle of champagne, pretty much, to celebrate. And then you go to leave for all three of you to go celebrate, right? To go celebrate in private, all three of you. Which winds up being which you wind up cutting out of the bar, and you cut to the observatory, because the university has like their own observatory. So now you're on the roof of the observatory, and you're just shooting the shit there. Well, with the champagne and stuff. While looking at you have telescopes set up to look at the sky, because there's also like a meteor shower that's like happening during the course of the night. So hence why you're also on the university, so that way you're on top of the observatory, on the roof of the observatory. So that way you could get a very good view of like the meteors going across the sky and everything. So you're having this conversation. You're like, okay, but what is the secret? Like what are we celebrating and stuff? And Safi's like, I don't want to mention it yet until it's actually 100% going through. So it's like, okay. And then they pretty much, Safi goes off to the corner by the, to the corner of the roof. She goes off, right, to write down some poetry. Because that's what Safi specializes in. That's like her little thing, is that artistically she wants to do poetry. So that's what she does. And Moses is pretty much like astronomy. Like he likes like the scientific stuff and like mechanical things and whatnot. So that's his like artistic thing. So Max really wants to find out what is Safi's secret? Like what is she celebrating but not telling us what we're supposed to be celebrating? And we come up with we talk to Moses about it, and Moses is like, okay, if you want to find out, force Safi in a way to tell you what the secret is. Me and Safi usually play this game, this bottle cap game, and he whoops out a bottle cap, and he's like, okay, the rules of the game are very simple. You have to have to come up with a way without the other person knowing of them getting this bottle cap. And once they have it, they have to, without question, within reason, answer anything that the other person asks. So in this instance, if Max can get her to get the bottle cap, then Max can ask her a question and Safi has to answer truthfully. So it's at this point you can find different ways to get Safi to get the bottle cap with Safi, right? There's also ways where you can completely fuck it up and not have that happen. And remember, Max is not refuses to use her rewind powers, so there's no redos. Which kind of comes into play in the second episode, but we'll get to it when we get there. But there's no rewind mechanic, so any decision you make here, you're going to stick to. So Max ain't gonna be rewinding anything this time around. So, which is kind of a bummer, but hey, if it's executed well, then it's fine. But in any case, if you get the bottle cap onto Safi, right? You can kind of let her keep her secret, or you can, push and actually find out, like, the secret. And it turns out that she's potentially getting a book published of her poetry. That they're working on a deal. The deal hasn't been signed through yet, but they're pretty much, working out all the odds and ends for the deal to go through. That's pretty much what's happening. So So that's what like the big secret is, and Max can pretty much tell her congratulations and stuff like that. And then from there, Safi gets a phone call, and it's an important phone call, and she's like, "All right, I need to step away real quick because I need to take this phone call, right?" So she steps away. Um, you you can do some exploration. You can get a little flashback. You could get one of the, because there's some flashback moments where you have to do some exploration to get them. And one of them is looking at the telescope, looking through the telescope and stuff. And when you do that, Max will mention Chloe that they used to look at, like when they were younger, look at the stars and things like that. And when she's finished saying that, you will actually get a flashback, a audio flashback to the pool scene in the pool. I believe it's the pool scene from when you're trying to get into the pool, because it's the partners in crime, partners in time line that that Max and Chloe say. So you get the little flashback to that. So to proceed with the rest of the thing, the rest of the episode, you have to take a picture of the moon, pretty much, like of the sky. So you have to take a picture of that. So once you go to take the picture, as soon as Max does it, she starts getting like a headache, like a migraine, which is pretty reminiscent of what happens in the original game when she uses her powers too much. So she starts to feel that, and you could tell that she kind of knows what's going, like what that feeling is, but she's kind of denying it because she's like, okay, I need to leave. So she pretty much tells Moses that I'm gonna be out. I'm gonna go back home. Which home for Max is pretty much, she lives on campus in like this little house and stuff that's close by the school. So because Moses is like, do you want me to like take you? And Max is like, hey, it's not that far. I'll be fine. So she goes to leave. And then she's coming out of the observatory building, and then we have a kind of repeat of the original game, where Max puts in her headphones, and then she's on her phone. She's trying to go to a playlist to pick a song, right? And then she picks a song, and then the song is playing as you're walking down the path to get home. So it's kind of reminiscent of the hallway scene from the first episode of the original Life is Strange. Except no Sid Meier's song in this game. So that would have been a fun icing on the cake if they had a Sid Meier's song playing during this scene, but no such luck on that one. There's no repeat bands or anything from the original game in this game. So all the music is entirely new stuff. And new bands and all that stuff. So Max starts walking down the path. She could also find the other collectibles that you could find in the game are these Polaroid pictures. And these Polaroid pictures seem normal at first, but the more you collect them during the course of the game, the more questions start getting brought up on how are these pictures being taken, who specifically is taking these pictures, and things like that. It's like a mystery. It will kind of get solved later, but we'll get to it eventually. Because right now we're setting up a lot of things. So we could find that. And then we find this owl flies over and sits on top of this little statue that they have in the courtyard, right? And then Max wants to take a picture of it. So you have to take a picture of the owl on the statue. So you take a picture of it, and then as soon as you snap the picture, Max is getting a big headache and stuff again, to the point where it's really powerful, and she pretty much gets knocked unconscious because of it. So she's knocked unconscious and blacks out. And during the blackout, you get an audio flashback of Max and Chloe at the end of the original game, where Max and Chloe are talking about the storm, because Max is telling Chloe, like, I caused this, I caused all of this. And you also hear a emergency broadcast recording from Arcadia Bay telling people to of the storm emergency and stuff. Like, this isn't a drill and stuff. This is an emergency and stuff and things. So from that, Max starts waking up, and when she wakes up, she notices her nose is bleeding. So she's getting a nosebleed, and it's at this point that she's like, "Oh, I know what's going on. This isn't great." And she wants to find Safi, because she has this feeling that something may have happened to Safi. And when she's getting up to go, Moses, because she was passed out for so long that Moses has already packed up his stuff and has already come out to the courtyard. So he notices Max, calls out to her, but Max doesn't hear him and continues to go to find Safi. So you start going up this hill that leads to this overlook, that you could get a clear overlook of the whole university underneath you, right? So you go up the path that leads there. As you're going up there, you start see like these weird distortions and stuff. Like, Max starts feeling like her head hurts. She hears this. She hears like this gunshot, right? And she's like, "Holy shit, is that Safi?" And then she sees Safi like still on the phone in the distance, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Oh no, she's fine. Let me hurry up and get there, right?" So now you get to the little overlook area, and Safi is sitting on a bench, on the bench at the overlook, and you get there, and Safi and Max, calls out to Safi. She doesn't answer. She touches Safi on the shoulder. And then, when she does that, Safi falls off the bench. like just she drops her camera because she had a camera in her hand, and she falls off the bench. And then Max bends down. She goes to, turn her over, and that's when you see like a gunshot on her chest, like a nice bullet hole, like right where her heart is. Which, if you notice in the trailer, is the scene where Max turns her over. The only thing is, in the trailer, they didn't have the bullet hole there, so they didn't so you don't see the bullet hole. But in the actual game, there is a bullet hole there. So, which is not the only thing they hide in the trailers, where you see a scene in the trailer, but when you get to that scene in the real game, it's depicted differently. So they try to be sneaky in the trailer to try to hide certain things. So she sees the bullet hole. She knows pretty much Safi's dead at this point, because the bullet hole is literally right where her heart is. So clearly she's dead. And it's at this point that Moses comes up behind you. Max is crying, but she's not like, but she's not overly hysterical, because remember, she's seen this type of thing happen with Chloe, so she's kind of like, I've been here before type of thing. So yeah, she's sad, but she's like, I can keep it together for the most part, because unfortunately I haven't a lot of experience with this. So Moses comes up, he notices Safi, and then you see him like on his phone and whatnot, obviously to dial like 911 and things like that. And it's at this point that the camera pans up to the sky. A meteor cuts through the sky, and then it fades to black, and then that's when the Life is Strange double exposure title card pops up on screen, with epic music playing in the background. So really nice way of doing that. So at this point, you have another cameo flashback with Max and Chloe's conversation here being the I believe it's the final lead up to the decision. Because I believe it's the conversation where Chloe's like, no matter what decision, no matter what you choose, I'm sure you'll make the right decision. You hear that conversation happening. And then the end of that conversation is different depending on the ending you choose. So if you chose specifically to save Chloe and Chloe's alive, the final line that she says is the line of I'll always be with you, which kind of digs the knife in even deeper, because it's like they broke up, so how is that, But in any case, now we're in Max's home, her little home. She's in her little pajamas. She's obviously depressed. I believe it's been a couple of days since Safi was killed, and Max is obviously still sad about it. She has like a picture board of a couple of different pictures there. She has a picture of Safi on the board, which is kind of funny because you could do a little collectible picture of Safi when you're on the roof of the observatory and stuff. And whatever picture you take of her there is the picture that's on the picture board in Max's house. So that's kind of a fun little detail there. So she's looking to put a picture on the board, and she's like, wait, there's a picture missing. She puts the picture on Safi's picture on the board, and she's like, there's a picture missing. Where is it? And then she's scouring to find where the picture is. And then she goes under her bed and she finds the picture under her bed. And now this picture is different depending on the ending you choose. If Chloe is dead, then the picture she finds is a Polaroid picture of Chloe pretty much sticking up the middle finger to the camera. So, and my theory of this, I don't know if there's confirmation of this, but if it is this, then that's pretty good attention to detail on that. Whoever did it is the Polaroid picture. In the montage of Chloe being dead, in the original game, when the photo burning thing is happening, one of the photos is a montage, a thing of Max looking through photos that Joyce gave Max of Chloe, and she's holding one photo in her hand, and it's a Polaroid, because you could tell it's a Polaroid, but you only see the back of it. So presumably, in this instance with double exposure, that Polaroid picture of Chloe is, I'm pretty sure, is supposed to be the same Polaroid that Max was looking at in the original game if you go down that ending. So there's that. If you chose for Chloe to, if Chloe's alive, then the picture is not a Polaroid, it's a digital camera picture, and it's a picture that's similar to the picture of Max and Chloe in Life is Strange 2. The picture that David has in his trailer. It's similar to that picture. Like, Chloe has the long hair. She has the, for whatever reason, the tattoo sleeve that's on her arm, it's all blacked out. And Max has, like, the slightly longer hair and stuff. The only real difference is, obviously, the pose that they have in the picture is slightly different. And Chloe has blue hair in the picture instead of the greenish or greenish blue hair that she has in the Life is Strange 2 picture. So it's a pretty similar picture between the two. But in any case, when Max is looking at the picture, you get another flashback, audio flashback. And this one is the same no matter which picture it is. But it's the scene at the diner where Max is trying to prove to Chloe that she has time rewind powers, like the time travel stuff. So it's pretty much that, especially with the whole like the whole I got chills all over my neck thing. Like, you have powers thing. So it's that scene. So in any event, Max puts the picture on the wall. And then she tries to go back to sleep because, you know, she's just depressed. She's not even going to do any classes in university or anything like that and stuff like that. So which I guess is supposed to be their explanation of why Max is never having a class. I don't know. I guess the budget didn't allow for making classrooms, I guess. I don't know. But in any case, she tries to go to sleep, but she gets messages from Amanda trying to, you know, see how she's doing. She also got some text messages from Moses trying to see how she's doing. But more importantly, she gets a message from Amanda saying that she's coming over, that she's bringing food. But more importantly, she's coming over. So Max is like, oh shit, I need to get dressed and fix up the place because the place is kind of a mess because she's been depressed to clean up. So you pretty much have to get dressed and clean up. So as you're cleaning up the downstairs area, like the living room area, you have your Arcadia Bay stuff, because you have Arcadia Bay stuff in a box, but you took out some of the stuff, and I guess you're like reminiscing about it, right? And there's some fun stuff, fun Easter eggs in that you could see in the box. Like, you have your pirate gear. I believe Max has her Jane Doe shirt in there. I believe Chloe's snow globe is in there. And depending on the ending you chose, if Chloe's dead, there's a newspaper article about Chloe being dead, about the incident with Chloe getting shot and then Jefferson getting arrested and all that stuff. She has a newspaper of that. And I believe there's also another picture of Chloe and stuff. Polaroid picture of Chloe and stuff from there. And then you have, if Chloe is alive, then you have a newspaper article of the town being destroyed. You also have a Polaroid picture of Joyce instead, because we have 100% confirmation in this game that Joyce did die during the storm and stuff. So, which yet again is following up on the confirmation of Life is Strange 2 that David says. So that's continuing there. And more importantly, you have a letter from Chloe written to Max, which is pretty much a breakup letter, which is a pretty it's a pretty lengthy letter. But what it comes down to is the reason why Chloe is breaking up with Max is because not that she doesn't love Max, Like, she makes it abundantly clear that she does. But she's saying that Chloe, because Chloe wants to move past Arcadia Bay, but Max is saying that Max is kind of like stuck in the past, and she kind of like thinks that Max would like rewind time and use the powers and stuff like that. Because there's even a comment where Max of old text messages between the two of them, of Max wanting to settle down and like with Chloe and stuff, and Chloe asks her if she says no, if Chloe said no, would Max just keep rewinding until she eventually would say yes, type of thing, which is pretty fucked up. And also out of character for Chloe, because by the end of the original game, before the original game even ends, Chloe is very adamant to Max about Max not using her powers. so her accusing Max of doing the rewind is kind of uncharacteristic, because it's like weird. And then there's also a comment that with the Joyce photo, that Max says that Chloe never looked at Max the same after she found out that Joyce died. Which is also inconsistent, because when Chloe is trying to convince you, for the most part, to sacrifice her at the end of the original game, she does mention the possibility of Joyce dying in the diner and stuff like that. So Chloe knows firsthand that her mom is most likely going to die in this anyway. So her being shocked that Joyce died in the storm makes no sense, because it's like Chloe already realized that as a possibility immediately already by the end of the first game. So her kind of holding that, so Max implying that Chloe kind of held that up against her is kind of stupid, because it's like Chloe already knew that as a possibility. So Chloe already accepted that as a possibility. So her kind of, it's a very muddy thing, and their explanations, because this is the explanation on the breakup and all that stuff, is you find all that out here, which is very flimsy. Their explanation is very flimsy, because there's a lot of things in the first game that kind of contradict some of their reasoning. So, because I'll tell you flat out, this double exposure does not work. Doesn't completely work if Chloe is around. Because the game, with Chloe around, the game is kind of bending over backwards to explain Chloe not being around still. Whereas with Chloe being dead, this game plays out a lot better. So So the biggest problem that Deck 9 has throughout this whole game is they should have stuck with one ending and committed to one ending and take the game from there. Them trying to play off both endings doesn't fit this game. Because it's very obvious that this game primarily only makes sense mostly from one ending and not the other. And also, I'll mention it now, with Chloe being around, you can also get text messages, see old text messages from Max and Chloe over the years. And you can actually see, I think the broader social media, like their version of, I think it's their version of like, Instagram or something, that Max kind of like follows Chloe on like Instagram. Like she doesn't talk back and forth, but you can see and read like different posts and activities that Chloe is doing. Chloe you never see a picture of Chloe though, cause the text messages and the Instagram profile picture, none of them is Chloe. It's the messages is a blue butterfly, which is sweet because that's the profile picture of the text messages between Chloe and Max. So it's a more personal thing. So it kind of makes sense for the blue butterfly. And the Instagram profile is a skeleton hand of like the Rockstar horns. Of the horns. Which makes sense. And also you get a cameo within Chloe's Instagram messages of her and Victoria talking to each other. So it seems like somehow Chloe and Victoria kind of became friendly because they're having a friendly conversation with each other on the Instagram thing back and forth. Also, if Chloe is dead, instead of the Chloe stuff, it will be Joyce. So you'll have text messages between Joyce and Max talking back and forth, and you'll have some Instagram posts of Joyce like talking about like the anniversary of Chloe being dead and all that stuff, and like remembering her. So those are kind of like the main differences there. So in any case, you clean up everything, you put all the stuff in the arcade, you put the Arcadia base stuff back in the box, and then put it to the side. Which yet again is a nice metaphor of Max not confronting anything and dealing with it, and is just hiding it away and avoiding it. That's not lost on me. And then what was it? Amanda comes over. So Amanda knocks on the door, and you have to open the door for her and all that stuff. Funny little cruel Easter egg for this is you could leave Amanda at the front door ringing the doorbell and like yelling at the door for you to come to door for like a while, and she has like different voice lines depending on how long she's standing at the door for. So it's kind of a fucked up funny little Easter egg on that one. But in any event, you open up the door. Amanda gives you some food that she made. So she brought over some food. Because she's like, girl, you haven't had a proper meal in days. You've been like locked up in your house. No one has seen you for a while. Like you need to get up and you need to get out. You need to heal. You need to do something. You can have a fun little conversation here. If you're pursuing a romantic relationship with Amanda, you could have like a little flirty moments here. And then eventually you get interrupted by a phone call, and this phone call is from Safi's mom, who's named Yasmin. So Yasmin calls you, pretty much asks you, you pretty much ask her how she's feeling. She asks you how you're feeling. Asks you how you deal with stuff like this. Which Max can tell her like a little bit of some stuff about dealing with loss, which is funny because when she's telling Yasmin about dealing with loss, the camera cuts to the Chloe photo, whichever Chloe photo you have up on the wall. So it's kind of like, okay. Kind of on the nose on that one, but she also says that if Max can come see her at her office later. So there you go. So with that, your next objective is to go meet Yasmin at her office. So Amanda goes to see you off to goes to walk with you to the university. So she walks with you to the university, and then she leaves you there and goes to the bar, to the Snapping Turtle bar, right? And then from there you can explore like the courtyard in front of the university, so you can meet a couple of people here. You meet what was the guy's name? What was his name? Let me see, because I liked him as a character too for what we get of him, but I don't remember his fucking name. Reggie, there you go, Reggie. I knew it started with an R, but I was like, I was like, okay, Reggie. So you meet Reggie. He's over on the bench over there. You can meet up with him, see how he's doing and whatnot. He's a little. He wasn't close to Safi, but he's still a little shaken that somebody could get murdered on campus. So he's a little shaken over that. He also has like this cube as a test to like this Abraxas club that that he wants to join, and to join he has to solve this cube puzzle to join, and he's not really good at it, and then you can help him out in trying to solve the puzzle. And then when you solve it, you come to find that that's only the first part of the puzzle, and then that there's another puzzle within a puzzle that you have to figure out. And then it's at that point Reggie is like, fuck this. If you want to finish the puzzle, it's all you. Go right ahead. I'm out. So you could solve that puzzle, the second part of that puzzle in the second chapter. But for the first chapter, you already solved everything you can for it now. And then you go, you meet, do you meet her here? Do you meet her at the courtyard? Or you meet her when you're inside? Well, either way, at some point you meet another one of Max's students, Diamond, because Reggie and Diamond are two of her students that she has for classes. So you meet her. She is an okay character. Doesn't really get a lot of screen time throughout the game, but is fine enough. Her main trait is that as you go through the game, it turns out that she kind of has a crush on Moses. So there's that. Also, you come to find out that I believe Moses is gay. Because I believe you find a Polaroid picture in one of the later chapters, and it's kind of implied that his boyfriend is like, there's like a Christmas get together or something, and like a Christmas present that he's trying to get him and things like that. So yeah. So it's kind of like, well, unfortunately, Diamond, it doesn't seem like Moses swings that way, so that's not going to be a thing for you. And also that she is also a part of this Abraxas Society thing that Reggie was trying to get into, that Diamond is a member of. Which, if you've noticed, the Abraxas Society is supposed to be the parallel of the Vortex Club from the original game that Victoria and her friends and Nathan and stuff were all a part of. So there's that. And then you go into the area where Safi's mom office is. You go there. You also find in the courtyard by the statue of the founder of the university, that they set up a little memorial for Safi there with like some flowers and little mementos there. Also, you don't talk to her in this episode, in this chapter, but you talk to her in the next chapter. You see this girl talking with one of the police officers, who's a student who's also trying to be a reporter, named Loretta. And she's, yet again, as I said, you don't talk to her yet, but, because that's not until the second chapter. But you hear her talking to the guard, and you could overhear their conversation and stuff, and hear Loretta trying to find out some information about Safi's murder and stuff, and all that stuff, like how the investigation's going and things like that. So she's trying to get some information there. Also, a funny little thing, when this game was coming out and people saw Loretta, a lot of people thought, people in the fan base thought that Loretta was somehow an alternate version of Rachel. um, like people actually thought that Loretta was Rachel because we didn't know Loretta's name for like a while before the game came out. So people just thought that that was Rachel from like another timeline or something. Like some fan theories about the game were getting pretty crazy as the game was coming out, so it was pretty funny. Whatchamacallit? So you get into the main university, you go to Yasmin's office area, which is by the mail room of the university, the library of the university, and then you have her office all the way at the end of the hall, with her secretary in front of the office, right? And in the doorway leading to the secretary and office area, they actually have another memorial for Safi, and this one actually has like written notes and stuff that people wrote on a nice little like picture of Safi, like I believe it's like a drawn picture of Safi. And Max can choose to write on it too if you want, and then you could choose what you want to write on it. But in any case, you go to Safi's to Yasmin's office, right? And you try to go in, but she's talking with someone already. So her secretary, who's this guy named Vin, I believe his name is Vin, right? Let me see, now I'm paranoid with some of the character names now. Yes, Vin. So Vin, so the secretary Vin, so you meet him, and then he's like, it's gonna take a while before she's finished, right? So you go, so he's like, if you, while you're waiting, if you do me a favor, you could go pick up a package from the mail room or whatnot, because I have something to do that I have to whatnot. So you could go do that. You also overhear somebody having trouble in the library. So you could also check on there. So you could go to the library. You find that that the person that's having trouble in the library turns out to be another one of the teachers there, named Gwen. And she's trying to get this book that's kind of locked in like this cabinet. So she's trying to get this book, and you can help her out getting to get this book. And you help her get the book and stuff, and she's, like, thank you about it. She's kind of also comforting you a little bit in like Safi's murder. And she also asks you, did Safi ever mention like what her like surprise was and whatnot? And you could actually tell her what it was or not. So you could tell her one way or the other. If you do tell her, then Gwen kind of sounds like disappointed and whatnot because, you know, she's dead and she can't live to see what becomes of the book and stuff. So that's the sad part. So either way, Gwen then takes the book and leaves and stuff, and she's like, if you need anything, come by my office. I'll be around, right? Which isn't really gonna be a thing until the second chapter, I believe. So kind of setting up things and objectives to do later. So she So you can also get the package from the mailroom and bring it to Vin if you want. If you do it, then Vin is kind of like, "Oh, thank you for the package. So what do you want?" And Max is like, "What do I want?" And he's like, "A favor for a favor. You don't cuz he doesn't believe that, you know, you do something for nothing." So he's like, "Okay, you did me a favor. So I do you a favor." And you can I believe you can take him up on it, or you can say like like, "I'm good for now, but I'll tell you if I need anything," type of thing, right? So it's at this point that Moses comes out of Yasmin's office. So clearly they were talking. And Moses is obviously really depressed. He's really sad, right? So so Max goes to try to talk to Moses, and Moses is like, "Not now. I'm really kind of not in the mood right now. We'll talk later." And Max is like, "Okay, when I'm done with Yasmin, wait for me at the school cafe, right? Wait for me there, and we'll talk there, right?" And he's like, "Okay, I can do that, right?" So he goes off to wait for us there. And then now we can go to talk to Yasmin. And Yasmin is pretty much kind of updates us on the investigation, and that the police are taking a while. Like, they still don't have any real answers because there were very odd things that happened for the murder. Like, there's questions that they can't answer. So there's some weird stuff surrounding Safi's murder that the police can't even figure out. And obviously Yasmin is frustrated because she wants answers. So Yasmin also asks Max if Safi ever like mentioned some stuff. The police think that that Safi may have committed suicide, and then Max can either kind of agree with it or like really disagree with it. If you disagree with it, then Yasmin is like, "Yeah, I don't think Safi would ever do that either." And then pretty much like like uh like I'll kind of let you know if anything. You also can see the business card of the detective that's working the case, which I'll mention his name later, because we don't actually meet him here. We meet him in the second chapter, I believe, is when we actually meet him. So it's a little hint that we'll meet the police later. And Yasmin also asks you to pick out like a nice picture of Safi for a little memorial thing for later that she's doing for herself. So you pick a picture, and then from there you can leave, because then Yasmin gets another phone call, and then she's on the phone. So now you leave to meet up with Moses. So you go to the school cafeteria area to see Moses, and you can also get him a hot chocolate, which is kind of sweet to give him. And then pretty much you both Max pretty much apologizes for avoiding Moses and everything and whatnot, and you both kind of reconcile, and you both try to help each other through your grief stuff, right? So you affirm that hey, we're gonna be there for each other, right? We're gonna help each other through this. And then from there, you're leaving the main school building, right? Because this whole stuff is connected to each other. So you leave the whole building, and you're back out in front of the school courtyard, right? And then in front of the statue, where they have Safi's little memorial thing there, you have a kind of a little memorial get together with another teacher of the school, which this guy's name is Lucas. And he's supposed to be a famous author. Like he wrote this novel which was really famous, made him a lot of money, and he's kind of the local big celebrity of the university, right? Because a professor at the book a professor of the university made this famous book and whatnot, and this is where he teaches, so kind of made the school a little bit famous, right? And if you haven't noticed, just from a famous teacher, he's supposed to be like the Jefferson parallel. But instead of a famous photographer like Jefferson was, Lucas is just a famous novelist, because he wrote a novel. So he's kind of doing a little, his own little, sermon, kind of, for Safi, which Moses takes offense to, because he doesn't tell Lucas this. He's kind of because Moses and Max are looking, off to the side, and Moses is just telling Max this, and he's like, Max, I can't stand here and watch this, because Safi really didn't like Lucas. Lucas and Safi really didn't like each other. So Safi wouldn't appreciate Lucas trying to pretend that they were buddies or whatnot, right? So Moses is like, I'm leaving. I'll be over at like this bench all the way over here. Meet me when you're ready, right? So it's at this point that you have free reign to go around the uh, the the school front yard, right? Which is also really cool because there's like a little lake in front, and since the entire game takes place during the winter time, as you notice in the trailer, the lake is like frozen over, and you'll have some NPCs that are kind of like ice skating, like on the little lake in front. So it's kind of a nice little like visual thing there. But in any case, you you can choose to confront like Lucas about this, or you can choose not to. But either way, another little tidbit about this: some of the students that are gathered for that Lucas gathered for this, one of them is Diamond. So depending on what you do with the Lucas thing, like Diamond will kind of have some things to say. You could also with Lucas kind of address. You could address like the crowd of students too, and you could also state your suspicions of Safi being murdered and it not being a suicide, because the suicide thing is kind of the thing that's going around school, and people are thinking that Safi just committed suicide, right? And so you can kind of plant the seed of like a bigger like worrying thing with with it being a murder and not a suicide thing. So which Diamond can kind of like follow up on. So that's a thing if you choose to do the whole Lucas thing. You could also be very aggressive to Lucas and kind of like you know, be antagonistic with him. So, which Lucas from the very first his introduction here, he really comes off as like a kind of like a pompous like egotistical type of guy. So if I met the guy in real life, I would not want to be around someone like that anyway. So it's kind of understandable that Lucas is not really a well-liked person. But in any case, you go to Moses. You have another little conversation with Moses. And then you Moses is like, all right, I gotta go to the I gotta go back to the university and fix up some the observatory and fix up some stuff, right? So I'll catch you later, right? And Max is like, all right, I'll catch you later. And then he goes off and leaves. And then a little while after, Max starts hearing like Moses's voice again. But she's like, wait a minute, Moses is already gone. Like, why am I hearing his voice here? And then she's like, okay, let me try to focus on the voice thing and see what I see. And then it's at this point where the new powers are starting to show themselves, because you can do it's at this point you could do like a pulse wave that kind of goes for a little bit around Max, and it's at this point she sees this like yellow version of Moses. So now Max decides to be like, okay, I'm seeing this Moses. I can't interact with it, but I could hear it and I could see it. So let me follow this Moses to see where he's going, right? And see if I could kind of figure out what's going on. So you follow. So this section is a little tedious. Luckily, it's towards the end of the. It's pretty much the end of the first chapter, because after you finish this little section, the chapter's over. Is following this yellow version of Moses. So you follow him, even though he stops several times, and he's not even going far too, so it makes it even more kind of annoying. Especially the first time he stops, he's talking to a version of Diamond, another yellow version of Diamond. I don't believe it's Reggie. I think the only important one is Diamond. But there's another NPC that's kind of talking back and forth with Diamond. But either way, they stopped there because he was about to cross the middle of like a little snowball fight that they're doing. So he's kind of like telling them to stop so he can like safely pass by, right? So he passes by, and then when he gets close to the end, he fucking takes a break to tie his shoes, which is kind of annoying. It's like, bro, you stopped once and then now you're stopping again. And it's like you're close by where we have to go. So I could have done without the shoe tying part, because that's just dragging out this scene for no reason. But the previous thing I could see because of the establishing a different version of like Diamond and things like that, like that I could understand. But the random shoelace thing is like, okay, now you're just padding. But in any case, you get towards the front of the school to go inside. And then it's at that point that this yellow version of Moses starts talking to a yellow version of Safi. And they're talking back and forth. And Safi's saying that, like, have you seen Max? We were supposed to meet up and stuff. And I've been waiting for her for a while and she hasn't shown up yet. And Moses is like, I haven't seen her, like, I don't know, but I have to go do something, but if I see her on the way, I'll let you know, right? And I'll let her know that you're out here waiting, right? So Safi's like, okay, whatever, I'll wait here for a little while longer. And it's at that point where where Max decides is like, okay, I'm gonna stop following Moses. Now I'm gonna go see what the hell is up with this, with Safi. Like, how the fuck is she there? So she kind of overhears Safi, because Safi's talking, and she's like, Jesus, where is Max? And Max is trying to talk to her, but she can't hear her, right? So then Max starts to focus in on her and like really concentrating. And then it's at that point where Max is like reaching out, and then she can start to see that she can kind of use her hands to kind of like almost like rip herself into another timeline. So she rips herself into this other timeline because she's trying to talk to. So her desire to try to talk to this version of Safi opens up a doorway into another timeline where Safi is clearly alive. Because as soon as she rips into that other timeline, then everything, the people are not yellow or anything anymore. Now they're in their normal detail as a way to signify that now she's in this timeline now. And now she could fully interact with these people now. Because as soon as she goes through, Safi notices Max now, and then they kind of like hug and embrace and stuff, which Safi finds a little weird because she's like, okay, but obviously Max is hugging her because she was dead and now she's alive again and stuff like that. So, it's kind of similar to when in episode 4 of the original Life is Strange, when Max comes back from the Chloe in a wheelchair timeline, and the first thing she does is immediately run up to Chloe and give her a hug, type of thing. It's pretty much like the same, like a little reference parallel there. Yeah, so that's the end of the first episode, is that. So you only got a little taste of using the powers at the very end of this first chapter. So for a majority of this first chapter, you're not even using any powers. Because remember, your rewind powers, your time travel powers is not a thing. So up until the very end, you were not using any powers. So, which they're gonna rectify, which they're gonna follow up on in the second chapter, because primarily the second chapter is gonna be all about teaching you how to use your new powers, like what you can and can't do with the new powers and things like that. So the second chapter is mostly going to be a tutorial on your new powers and how they work. So, but we save that for next time. But with that, let's first place chapter 1 Still Life, and where is this going to fall? So, this one's hard. It's gonna be on the low end. It's gonna be on the low end of A. Of the introduction, because here's the thing, of the introductory chapters and episodes of each game, this one is one of the weakest. One of the weakest. Because obviously the weakest is Life is Strange 2, because the inciting incident is a giant contradictory plot hole clusterfuck there. But this is pretty much almost just as bad. The only thing that puts it above the first episode of Life is Strange 2 is if you are doing the Chloe being dead timeline, if you're doing the Chloe being dead decision, then this all works out fine. because primarily the Chloe flashbacks are more framed as Max just having a lot of guilt of having to let Chloe die. So that's the flashbacks are more framed in that way. As opposed to Chloe being alive, where the flashbacks are more framed as Max not getting over the breakup with Chloe breaking up with her, type of thing. So, or Chloe stop being her friend, type of deal. So that's the main difference, is depending on the route you choose, it works better than the other. But because of that divide, that's pretty much why I put it on the lower end. And so it doesn't fully contradict itself. It kind of only contradicts itself depending on the ending that you chose. Where as opposed to Life is Strange 2, where it contradicts itself no matter what you do. The inciting incident, so that's the main divide between the two of these. So in any case, that's where we end it here. So we end it here, and with that, we will continue with chapter 2 next time in the next episode. So until then, as always, JR here signing off, and I will catch you all in the next one. Later.